This video will probably make you uncomfortable, but if you've dealt with a narcissist, you already are. You felt confused, drained, questioning your own memory, wondering how someone can make you feel so small. And maybe part of you still wants to win. Good, because today, I'm not going to tell you how to argue with a narcissist. I'm going to show you how the dynamic actually works and how to win against them. Not by attacking them, not by exposing them, not by trying to break them, but by understanding the mechanism. Once you understand the mechanism, the illusion disappears.
Chapter 1. Identification. Not every difficult person is a narcissist, but narcissistic behavior follows a pattern. In the beginning, they often feel magnetic, intense, deeply interested in you. They mirror your interests. They move quickly. They make you feel chosen. Then slowly, something shifts. Conversations begin to orbit around them. Accountability becomes rare. Criticism, even mild, triggers defensiveness or subtle retaliation. Apologies feel strategic, not sincere. They reframe events to protect their image. They rewrite history. They minimize your feelings. And here's the important part. They don't just want attention. They need regulation. There is a difference between narcissistic traits and a full personality disorder. Everyone has ego defenses. Everyone protects their self-image. The difference is rigidity. A narcissistic pattern becomes visible when someone cannot tolerate being wrong, cannot tolerate losing admiration, and cannot tolerate losing control of the narrative. That's when it becomes a system. And once it's a system, you're not dealing with confidence. You're dealing with instability. Sometimes it looks like this. You tell them something hurt you. They respond with, "I can't believe you think I would do that." Notice what happened. The focus shifts from your feeling to their image. Or this. You express a boundary. They suddenly become distant, cold, or dramatically wounded. Not because they're deeply hurt, but because control shifted. Another sign, they exaggerate their achievements, but become uncomfortable when someone else receives attention. Admiration feels natural to them, but offering it feels like loss. And here's a subtle one. They study people, not out of curiosity, but out of strategic awareness. They pay attention to your insecurities, not to protect you, but to position themselves. Chapter 2. Understanding the mechanism. A narcissist is not powered by strength. They are powered by dependency. Their self-worth is externally regulated. That means they rely on other people's reactions to stabilize themselves. Admiration stabilizes them. Fear stabilizes them. Anger stabilizes them. Even your frustration stabilizes them. Your emotional reaction becomes fuel. Conflict becomes stimulation. Attention becomes supply. And when supply is unpredictable, when they give you validation and then withdraw it, something dangerous happens. Intermittent reinforcement. The same psychological principle that creates addiction. Unpredictable reward strengthens attachment. That's why you feel hooked. Not because they're powerful, but because the pattern is. Your anger confirms their importance. Your tears confirm their impact. Your reaction confirms their existence. This is the part most people miss. The fight is the fuel. Let's slow this down. Imagine someone whose internal self-worth is unstable. They wake up unsure of their value. They need confirmation. Not once. Constantly. When you admire them, they stabilize. When you challenge them, they destabilize. But even destabilization gives them something. Stimulation. Attention, positive or negative, confirms existence. That's why arguments don't exhaust them the way they exhaust you. For them, intensity equals significance. For you, intensity equals stress. This asymmetry is the trap. And when they alternate between praise and withdrawal, your brain releases dopamine in unpredictable bursts. That's the addiction cycle. It's neurological, not just emotional. That depth makes it feel intelligent. Chapter 3. Shifting the dynamic. Most people try to win by confrontation. They argue, they expose, they attempt to prove the narcissist wrong. But confrontation often strengthens the cycle, because ego injury triggers escalation, projection increases, blame shifting intensifies, emotional manipulation sharpens. If you try to break them directly, you become their source of regulation. So what actually works? Emotional neutrality, not suppression, not pretending you don't care, but controlled response. When provoked, slower reaction. When baited, minimal energy. When criticized, brief, stable replies. Stop over-explaining yourself. Explanations provide material to twist. Use short, predictable boundaries. This doesn't work for me. I'm not engaging in this. We can talk when it's calm. No dramatic exits, no emotional speeches. Consistency removes leverage. There's a technique often called gray rock. It simply means becoming emotionally uninteresting. Not cold, not hostile, just unreactive. Because the moment you stop feeding the emotional spikes, the cycle destabilizes. The moment you stop trying to win the argument, you begin winning the dynamic. Emotional neutrality does not mean silence. It means controlled tone. If they provoke you and you respond slowly, calmly, briefly, you remove drama. Example: they say, "You're too sensitive." Instead of defending yourself for 10 minutes, you say, "I disagree," and stop. No justification, no escalation. Silence is psychologically uncomfortable for someone seeking reaction. Another example: they attempt to bait you publicly. Instead of correcting them emotionally, you say, "That's your perspective," and move on. You don't fight for image, you protect energy. When you stop chasing resolution, they lose narrative control. That's leverage. Chapter 4. Securing psychological leverage. You don't destroy a narcissist. You remove what sustains them. Psychological leverage comes from stability. When you stop seeking their validation, their influence weakens. When you stop reacting to provocation, their control shrinks. When admiration disappears, they search elsewhere. A narcissist can only dominate what reacts. Read that again internally. They can only dominate what reacts. And here's something most people won't tell you. The strongest position isn't retaliation. It's indifference, not performative indifference, real detachment. When your self-worth is no longer entangled in their perception, their power dissolves. Not because you broke them, but because you broke the reinforcement cycle. And without reinforcement, patterns collapse. There's a stage most people don't talk about. When you stop reacting, they may escalate. More dramatic behavior, more charm, more aggression. This is extinction burst behavior. When reinforcement disappears, the behavior temporarily intensifies. Most people break here. They think it's getting worse. No, it's destabilizing. If you remain consistent, the pattern weakens. Consistency beats intensity. And here's something powerful. The moment they sense indifference, they often shift targets. Because supply is easier elsewhere. That is not revenge. That is structural collapse. Chapter 5. The hard truth. Here's the part most people don't like. If you still want to hurt them, you're still attached. If you need them to lose, you're still emotionally invested. And emotional investment is leverage. You don't win by making them suffer. You win by making them irrelevant. That requires discipline. It requires emotional regulation. It requires accepting that closure may never come. And that's uncomfortable. But control doesn't come from dominance. It comes from non-dependence. You don't break a narcissist. You outgrow the dynamic. And once you do, their tactics become obvious. Their provocations become predictable. And their control becomes optional. Sometimes you don't want control. You want validation. You want them to admit you were right. You want them to acknowledge the damage. That rarely happens. And chasing that moment keeps you tied to the dynamic. Freedom requires accepting that some people will never self-reflect, and that your growth does not require their apology. That's the real victory. If this video resonated with you, I'm considering putting together a structured dark psychology guide, not surface-level advice, but a deeper breakdown of influence patterns, manipulation dynamics, emotional leverage, and psychological defense systems. If that's something you'd actually want, let me know. Until then, remember, the fight is the fuel. Remove the fuel, and the fire dies on its own.